how big is this problem?
And the treatment stops where your money stops.
Yes, and people die. You know, like we've seen people die because of lack of money.
And especially on a foreigner, where it becomes a diplomatic issue, atachiliwa ende.
So generally, you know, like generally just how we know Kenyan hospitals, you're not getting treatment without money. When you first saw $50,000, you know, like just go to a natural state. When you first saw it, what did you think it meant before you went back, verified and checked? What did you think it meant?
I mean, for me, it was just, you know, the cover, right?
Yeah.
But me, I just saw the travel insurance and I'm like, dang, that means that's extra money that I have to pay. And I was thinking about, you know, like I said, the travel insurance that I looked into, you know, which then now is a health. Then I also thought, okay, well, will my health insurance that I have suffice? Or how does that then now tally or equal? And will we even be given a chance to present it? You know,
yes,
and you know, because you'll have to have your printout of your of your limits, and it says, okay, you're covered for this up to this. In case of, again, remember, this is for emergency, because you're not gonna be using it at I'm going to go get my teeth done. No, this is for emergency cover. Something happens, you know, you get in an accident, you need to go to a hospital. So umeanguka, your leg is broken and it needs to be mended. You know, you're gonna have to pay somebody. That's an emergency, right? So for, you know, or it's food poisoning and you have to go see and, you know, be overnight like Mika, you know, absconded. So again, I looked at all of those at that. I'm like, this is just now another extra cost that I have to add on. I was like, in my head, I was thinking, tumetoka kwa ile inaitwaje, vitu tunaleta ndani ya sotano. Zilipelekwa, I think they increased it to, what did they increase it to? CG, was it 6K or something like that?
Okay.
So I'm like, tumetoka hapo, tumetoka. Now we have another one.
But this problem, ndio acha nije kwako, you know, like this problem of because, you know, like that $50,000 number is what was being, you know, like paraded there. Around.
You'll stop there.
Yeah. So is this a problem also in our Tanzania, ama is this a uniquely Kenyan issue? Because I sometimes wonder, because hii kitu ilisambaa sana, ilitembea sana, and you know, like once you look at the details, ukiangalia the things that people were saying zilikuwa ziambatani. So is this a Kenyan problem, ama is it an East African problem? Is it a global problem?
I think it's both. I mean, I think for Tanzania, the main issue is the way they people try to make money out of these baits and clicks and stuff. And unfortunately, some of the so-called medias are just running with whatever the headlines that they have in this WNN, you know, the WhatsApp News Network. And so people will come with whatever they have unverified, and then they run with it. I think the main issue, like you said, is scandals, kicks. Tanzania tunaita kiki. Kisikia kiki. So that's what it is. And sometimes they will purposely mislead, you know, put the title that will so that will get that click, and they know that it's like, if they put the detail on the third, fourth, fifth paragraph, nobody's gonna get there, you know. What in the paragraph ya kwanza, and then they'll go, so, or
the headline,
and then it's hard to say, hey, because they will verify everything on your sixth, seventh paragraph. The same thing they do here with the fine prints, right?
Yes,
you know. So, but you know for sure that Paleju, they know the market. Unfortunately, like they say, it's squeezy. Attention span of binadamu, it's less than goldfishes, right? So wanajua how to bait them and how to get into that. But that I see that a lot. Now, I blame the authorities kwa hili, because even you will think, because they know what bloggers and, you know, people on WhatsApp post, you think maybe the government having all this, they're well stuffed, full stuffed, you know, they got all the information. You think that they'll come up with a way to counter this information in a nice way, but they'll just let it go. They will leave it like that, you know.
Let it go.
Wanaacha gazeti alafu ukiuliza wanasema kwamba mkitaka kunani, just mkienda kwenye official website ya serikali.
Yeah, and nobody goes there.
Yeah, nobody goes there, and they know that. Yeah. But they're super lazy. Wataiacha hapo, and then that'll be their counter. That's how they'll try to, counter. But I feel like I don't know. I blame the government.
Are we living in an infodemic era? Because I feel like over time, despite now there's a lot of tools to verify, all kinds of tools to verify, but I feel like this problem is getting worse every day.
I'll tell you this: more people dies in the hospital where there's more medicine than kwa shule. Okay. So it's the same thing. The more information you have to verify, the more people will not, and then that it's just use and misuse, just like gun, right? You use the bad guy with the gun, stop by the good guy with the gun. To me, it's the same thing.
In software, you usually say data is good, but also data is bad, right?
As long as you know how to use it.
Yeah, you can use data and be very right or very wrong. Yeah. And you're both correct because you're using the same source.
Yeah.
Is how you interpret that data that matters.
But to your point,
and also how you look for that, you query for that.
The scary part is now we have this so-called generation. We have people who are coming in that didn't know how we used to verify stuff or how to verify. So for them, this is the lifestyle. This is normal. Yeah, for them, this is normal. That's where I see the bigger problem, because people feel like baiting and misleading titles and all this stuff. It's fine, but we all know that it isn't. So
So there's a clarification that was made by the government. Because there was a question that was coming up, if I already have international medical insurance through my employer, through my credit card, or through my travel policy, should the government force me as a traveler to buy another policy? So that question was coming up because there was a lack of clarity on this, because the Gazette notice did not even talk about, the date when implementation is going to begin or how it's going to be enforced and all that stuff. However, there was a clarification today that came from the Ministry of Health that says travelers will be able to use insurance purchased outside Kenya if it meets Kenya's coverage requirements, which with proof eventually tied to the electronic travel authorization process. And I think your ETA, your electronic travel authorization, was kind of, a trap to be able to implement all these other requirements. Because Amani, if you're traveling visa-free to Kenya, if your country is visa-free, you just show up.
Correct.
Yeah, you just show up and your passport gets stamped. But now you have to have an electronic travel authorization at least 72 hours before your flight.
You enter,
Yes. So I think that's another part that I think has not been properly clarified. Now, if your American policy maybe says $500,000 emergency medical, but doesn't separately state the other part that's required, let's say like Kenya's required evacuation, medicine, or repatriation benefits, who verifies this? That's the other question. That's where criticism begins.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be like, remember during COVID, there's a lot of things that we used to go in to verify.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, when you landed, you had to kind of register with the government. Then every day you needed to check in. Then there were other things that they were also, like checking on us. Like it was kind of like an honor thing, right? A trust thing. So I think what they're probably going to do is to establish something that where they, via that electronic travel thing, you go into that portal, utaweka information yako, then they will go and verify via that thing first. So they'll check, okay, is this name correct? Is this policy number correct? And what are the limitations of the policy, or what does that policy give? Because by you going into that ETA portal, it will give them authorization to also go check your information or verify your information by by your insured.
Yeah.
Right? You'll basically, by virtue of you going in there, you already give them carte blanche to go check.
Yeah.
So that they don't have to come back and get another CGO privacy thing, CGO sign here, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they'll make you sign that in there when you're applying and say, okay, we also need you to sign here, fill out this form so as a release so that we can take this form and give it to your insurance company and say, hey, Omosh has told us he has insurance with you guys and this is his policy number. Now we are coming back to check and verify whether A, is Omosh your client,
yes.
B, is this the policy number, and C, what are the limits?
Yeah. Okay. We were talking about, like policies. If you have an insurance policy with your company, if you have a different medical insurance and you're covered, are you still required to purchase, another policy on top of what you already have? There had been no clarity on that, but there was some communication that came from the ministry today that says that travelers will be able to use insurance purchased outside Kenya if it meets Kenya's minimum coverage requirements, with proof eventually tied to the ETA process, the electronic travel authorization. So yeah, we of course here talking about the coverage, the insurance coverage requirements that came from the government that people were complaining about. There was a lot of misinformation about, and this was passed actually back in 2023. We're also discussing why it is that generally people, even fairly informed people, do not know this. We've talked about SHA so many times. This is a part that did not either capture the attention of most people, or people just ignored it because it was something to do with foreign travelers. Now, the question that Mika had asked earlier, in the show, or rather I think it was you or Mosh who asked the question, and you had a back and forth with Mika, is how big is this problem? To the point where, required now insurance has to be required. How big is the problem of foreigners who are coming to Kenya getting treatment at the cost of the Kenyan taxpayer? We've gone to Kenyan hospitals and we already know that you will not get treatment unless there's money on the table.
Yeah, unless you remove money and it's a deposit normally of at least, I would say, probably between 50 to 100K. I guess depends on which hospital you go to.
Yes. So you will not get any treatment unless there's money on the table. So that's why that begs the question: is how big is this problem?
And the treatment stops where your money stops.
Yes, and people die. We've seen people die because of lack of money, who are there for emergent situations. So Mika was countering that point. I don't know that Mika is still...
Mika had said that, because I was asking tourists, and he said it's not only tourists, it's basically foreigners, right?
Yes.
And I think this stipulation, again, is for foreigners, people who are staying, I would say, less than 12 months. You're coming for a short duration. The locals, I think, would be different, but then Mika can maybe he, again, in my experience, it hasn't been, but he may have a different experience.
The thing is this.
Go ahead.
When you are mentioning tourists, right?
Correct.
A lot of tourists, most of the time, it's short term, pay cash, leave.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
But we have a lot of people who travel into Kenya because of business. And that's the majority of people traveling to that country. And then we have just the majority of people who come in, like our business went in Kuka for a while. People are meaning. At some point, your resources are exhausted. Biashara imekataa. Umekuwa mgonjwa. Kuna as much as vile hosita kushikilia. And especially on a foreigner, where it becomes a diplomatic issue, atachiliwa ende.
So generally, generally just how we know Kenyan hospitals, you're not getting treatment without money.
Like I said, maybe Mika knows something.
And that's what we're trying to find out. So do foreigners get different treatment?
They might get better treatment because the expectation is that they'll pay or they can afford to pay.
Okay.
Ama mtu alianza kulipa alafu ikaishiwa katikati. The same way Kenyan people go to hospitals, mnaanza kulipa, mnaanziwa treatment, alafu mnaambiwa pesa inaishia katikati.
Correct.
Okay.
Mnaanza kuchanga.
Okay, but now I think it would be prudent, like for the government to communicate to the people, like these are the numbers that, like taxpayers are footing because of this problem, because it's not clear whether we are solving, like an actual problem that's there, or if we are creating an existent problem and then providing a solution for it. There's no clarity. The government hasn't.
We have nothing that we can touch and feel and see.
Yes.
Right. So I think, and based upon these guys, it's like you have to question everything they do.
Because the question that I would ask is, how many foreign visitors arrive in Kenya uninsured? And of course, when we talk of foreign visitors, we should not be blind to the fact that the people visiting Kenya are not only tourists. There are so many other foreigners who are visiting Kenya for other reasons.
Correct.
How many require?
And I see where Mika is coming from. Actually, now when I actually think about it,
yes,
there's a lot of foreigners.
Yes, there's a lot of foreigners.
Because just think of wale watu wa, I would say wash, but wale watu wa gold.
Watu wa gold,
wale watu wa sijui nini, yani wale wamekuja for greener pastures.
Yes, there's a lot of Nigerians who are looking for greener pastures.
And they're normally they're normally swept every so many oftentimes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mika.
Remember Kenya is the startup capital of Africa.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
We have a lot of foreigners in Kenya who go to open startups in the name of they're opening it in Kenya. It's a Kenyan startup. But it's not a Kenyan startup. Inatu mtu mmoja Mkenya but ni foreigners wengi.
Yeah.
And startup business mnajua vile yokuwa. There's money, there's no money sometimes. Before you get seed money or you get any money, you struggle.
Now, but the question is, like hata watu wamekuja to open startups. Because I'm imagining, like if you've come to open a startup, I'm imagining you're someone who should be having some kind of medical cover.
That's what Mika is saying, that watu vile wamekuja na ama vile waliingia. They had a chap, then the chap pulled out.
Aliwacha nikusho kama mtu ameanzisha biashara from scratch.
Yeah.
Ukianza unakuanga na pesa na vision na kila kitu. Katikati utalose moja, vision, pesa ama kila kitu.
But you could lose all.
Yeah.